So, as some of you might know, I've been living in Japan for the spring of 2024 and I got back to Finland in mid of June. So, I'm now in Finland again and I've been steadily trying to get more in the mood of making more videos. However, I will have a pretty hectic autumn and possibly also spring, because I will be starting my master's degree with the pedagogy studies, which are allegedly not the most flexible type of studies in the university. But I will try to post new videos every now and then. I have some ideas for complementary videos that I want to make, and also I want to continue the Puhutaan, suomee series about colloquial or casual Finnish, as I often call it. For some of the future videos, you also might recognize that there is a difference in the sound quality, and that is because before leaving to Japan, I borrowed a mic from a friend, but before going to Japan, I returned it, and now I do not have an external mic. So, if you recognize that there is a fall in audio quality, I'm sorry, I know. It's because I do want to get a mic, but I don't want it to stop me from making more videos, so I would rather make videos with a little less high quality than not make them at all. So we all gotta endure. Anyways, without any further ado, here is the 8th part of Puhutaan, suomee. And see you or hear you in some future videos. I hope.
Puhutaan, suomee. Welcome to part 8 of my conversational Finnish learning material. This time we will learn phrases to talk about what you like. This material is always in 2 parts. In the first part you will learn the topic by repetition, and in the second part I will explain the grammar and vocabulary in more detail. There's no written Finnish in the first part of the video to train your ears to hear Finnish. It might seem difficult at first, but it should pay off in the long run. In this episode I will teach some phrases to ask and talk about what you like. After the phrases, I have a short conversation with Utu about what we like. In the explanation section, I will teach you a simple rule for many declinations and tell you about a new use for elative, which we learned already in part 6. As always, you will see translations in English for the phrases and as we speak. Remember to repeat after us so you will memorize it. Mistä tykkäät? Mä tykkään musiikista. Mistä musiikista tykkäät? Millaisesta musiikista tykkäät? Mä tykkään rockista. Mä tykkään popista. Mä tykkään heavistä. Mä tykkään teknosta. Mä tykkään klassisesta. Mä tykkään iskelmästä. Mä tykkään leffoista. Mistä leffoista sä tykkäät? Millaisista leffoista sä tykkäät? Mä tykkään kauhuleffoista. Mä tykkään draamoista. Mä tykkään komedioista. Mä tykkään sotaleffoista. Mä tykkään toimintaleffoista. Mä tykkään romanttisista leffoista. Mä tykkään videopeleistä. Mä tykkään lautapeleistä. Mä tykkään animesta. Mä tykkään eläimistä. Mä tykkään kirjoista. Mä tykkään kielistä. Mistä sä tykkäät?
Mä tykkään Reachistä. Mistä sä tykkäät?
Mä tykkään musiikista.
Millaisesta musasta sä tykkäät?
Mä tykkään K-popista. Mistä musasta sä tykkäät?
Mä tykkään iskelmästä.
Now I'll explain some things we learned today. If you are not a friend of grammar, feel free to skip this part. Let's start with grammar and noun declinations. After this, you will understand Finnish cases better and know how to learn words more effectively. If you do not remember what cases are, they are alternative forms for nouns, adjective, pronouns, and numerals that bring new meaning to the word. For example, inessive is a case that changes the meaning of bread to in bread. Most cases in Finnish have a specific suffix that you can add to the word. However, you might remember from earlier parts that some words alter a little before the suffix. For example, Suomi in inessive is Suomes, not Suomis, or leipä is leiväs. I've recommended you to learn these forms by heart until now. Now I'll give you a simple rule that you can follow to recognize many of these changes when the word is in singular, and also learn vocabulary more effectively to decline words by yourself. Let's pick an example word, leipä, which means bread. When we list different cases of the word, you might recognize a pattern. Leipä, leivän, leipää, leiväks, leiväs, leiväst, leiväl, leivälт, leivälle, leivättä, leipänä, leipään. For most cases, the suffix is added to a similar form, in this case, leivä. This form is called the word's stem. In Finnish, it's called actually the word's root, juuri, like root of a tree or a plant, because I guess the word grows with suffixes from the root. Anyways, for most cases, the stem is the same. Easiest way to learn the stem is to learn the genitive case. It always ends with an. Just take the an away and you have the stem. For example, the genitive case of leipä is leivän. So if you learn that the genitive case of leipä is leivän, you can chop off the an and you end up with leivä, which on itself does not mean anything, but now you can add the suffix to decline the word. For example, the suffix for inessive is as, so you get from leivän to leivä to leiväs, which means in bread. Then what about the cases that did not start with leivä? Well, nominative is of course just the basic form of the word that you will use, for example, to find the word from the dictionary. Then partitive and elative do not follow the simple rule that I just taught you. There is a logic to how these cases are formed, but to be honest, I believe that it is more productive to learn them by heart, especially because I have not yet found any rules for how these declinations work in casual or colloquial Finnish. And also, for you to effectively use cases while speaking, you can't probably really rely on following the rules rather than just learning them by heart. Then essive is not necessarily as difficult as partitive and elative. It has a single suffix, which is na. And for many words, it works exactly the same way as any other simple case. For example, Suomi in genitive is Suomen, so you take the an out, which becomes Suome, and you get the essive adding the suffix Suomena. However, in Finnish, some consonants have regular alterations called consonant gradation, and it might sound very technical because it is, but for Finnish speakers, it is just how some sounds alter within the language naturally. And at this point, I'm not going to teach the altering rules. I will link some materials for it in the description. I know that some learners really love grammar, and this will be a feast for you. But for the more casual learners, I would just say that it's good to be aware that this alteration happens, and again, learn it by heart by hearing and trying to speak the language. Without the alterations, your Finnish will definitely not sound native, but you will be very well understood. And you can get pretty far in Finnish just knowing that this phenomenon exists. This all means that when you learn vocabulary, try to learn the nominative, so the basic form, the genitive, partitive, and elative forms. This way you can decline any word in singular in every case. To learn these forms, for example, sanakirja.fi and Kielitoimiston sanakirja both have listed the most important declinations of words. Wiktionary is probably also your friend because they also list the declinations for most Finnish words. Keep in mind that these sources are for standard Finnish, so their forms might differ from what I teach or how I speak in these Puhutaan suomee videos. However, the basic word stem is most often the same for casual Finnish. You just take the genitive suffix n off the genitive form. I will continue explain the cases one by one and teach you how to recognize them. And we will of course look into plurals in some later part. Then a very specific case that we actually have already learned in part 6, which was elative. In part 6, we learned that elative is used for the same purpose as the preposition from in English. You might have noticed that almost every phrase in this episode, however, had the liked thing in elative. From an English point of view, this does not make sense, since saying I like from volleyball does not really mean anything. However, in Finnish, the verb tykätä requires the object in elative. It is just a feature of the verb. This is an extra use for the elative case and is not really connected to the main meaning from something. So if you say that you like something, you would say mä tykkään and add the thing you like in elative. Using the simple trick we just learned, you can get the elative case by taking the genitive of the word, dropping the suffix an, and then adding the elative suffix st. For example, I like rice, mä tykkään riisistä. Most often, you would need the word in plural to sound more natural. For plural as well, you need the word in elative. Since plural declinations are a little bit more complex, you cannot use the simple rule we just learned. For now, learn them by heart and we'll get into them later. Siinä kaikki tällä kertaa. Ensi kertaan!